Well, Bitcoin is selling off. Why is this happening? What's going on, and what should you expect going forward for this trend? Well, there is a lack of a clear catalyst for the current sell down at the time of this recording, sitting at about 62,000, 61.9. We're bouncing around. I've been watching this for about the last 30 minutes, just wondering, is this going to rebound? We're getting a little bit of that green shooting right now, but we did get down to 61.5. The question is not what's going to happen, though, over the next few minutes. The question is what's going to happen over the next hours, days to weeks. When we zoom out on the hours chart, we could see the downtrend is pretty clear. This is the last downtrend I had drawn. And if we go ahead and expand the size of this line, and then we try to keep the same angle that we have, we're just going to go ahead and pull that down over here. We can see we're now breaking even below that trend line. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that trend line now. We've used it. It's gone. What's actually much more interesting from a technical point of view now is that we're probably creating a head and shoulders pattern here. And given that we rose into this head and shoulders pattern, that is going to be a short-term bearish technical, and it does signal a potential draw down potentially to that 52 level. Now, this is not to say that there's anything wrong with Bitcoin in the long term, but when it comes to investing, as much as you might like the fundamentals of BTC with that halving coming up, it's always important to pay attention to the technicals. We are presently 32 days away from the Bitcoin halving. Some people say halvening, some people say halving. It doesn't really matter. We're seeing the relative strength for Bitcoin right now trade at similar levels as to what we saw around 42,000. And of course, we're seeing folks like Michael Saylor double and then double again down by raising bonds, basically raising debt to go double down on Bitcoin and buy more Bitcoin. And so far, the market has been providing that liquidity, though I will say MicroStrategy sets itself up as a really interesting stock. This morning, we did an analysis where we basically looked at MicroStrategy as of February 26th. And at the time that I ran the calculation, if you take February 26th and go from Feb 26th all the way to where we sit today or sat this morning, you're up about 69% on MicroStrategy. That compares to just 20% for Coinbase and 16% for Bitcoin over the same time frame. Now, right now, MicroStrategy's market cap is 2x the market cap of the actual underlying Bitcoin that it holds. We broke down the latest MicroStrategy holdings for Bitcoin over at ehack.com. We talk about this. By the way, I'm potentially going to have some crypto miners at our event in Vegas. So if you haven't yet considered coming to our innovation, crypto, finance, and real estate event, it's going to be mostly about real estate, but we're going to have some special segments on crypto and innovation and robotics and some really cool things regarding crypto and guest speakers as well. Check that out. Go to meetkevin.com. It's June 21st to 23rd, and we're about to announce the hotel location. Prices will be going up once we announce the hotel location where we're doing the conference. It's going to be great. But anyway, the point is, this premium that you've got on MicroStrategy over and above what you have on Bitcoin could potentially be one of the reasons you've recently had a sell-off. You did have a hedge fund that started going short MicroStrategy when MicroStrategy was trading at just a 20% premium, and now it's at a 2x premium, which basically means MicroStrategy blew up in their face and they were shorting it, so they got liquidated. Those sort of liquidations either are contributing to the selling off now or did contribute to the initial sell-off. One of the downsides with something like Bitcoin, it's just something to know as a long-term investor in Bitcoin, is while there is a feature of not having earnings calls and earnings reports and catalysts like that, a lot of people call that a feature, not a bug. One of the downsides is the lack of catalysts, the lack of additional confirmation. Yes, I want to keep buying. Yes, those earnings at NVIDIA are amazing. Give me more, give me more, give me more. And when you have a lack of those sort of catalysts, the only thing that actually drives more buying pressure is prices going up, bro. And when prices ain't going up because you've hit a head and shoulders trading pattern, you could tend to have an extended drawdown until you have a next catalyst wave. Now, the biggest catalyst wave we had going into this was obviously the spot Bitcoin ETF or ETP approval. Now, the reason I say ETP approval is because you do have some Democrats in Congress, and this is not to be political. You all know me, I try to be as neutral as possible. But these are two Democrats who did on March 11th write a, dare I say, upset, angry letter about the success of Bitcoin ETPs, exchange-traded products. And they're writing Chair Gensler at the SEC demanding that basically they analyze brokers for their communications with retail investors regarding cryptocurrency fair disclosures, and making sure that brokers aren't implying Bitcoin is like cash. It's obviously very different from cash, right? A lot of people would say way better. It's maybe more similar to real money than fiat currency. It's not inflated away, so to speak, right? But you've got senators here writing letters to the SEC saying there are deficiencies in how advisors are disclosing the volatility of Bitcoin, and we need to make sure that their fiduciary obligations, limits on leverage, custody requirements, disclosures for governance are all properly disclosed. And so what you really have is this like 2-page complaint letter of two Democratic senators, Jack Reed and Mrs. Butler, complaining basically that Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies could be a pump and dump or related to other fraudulent schemes. I don't think this was really necessarily a catalyst. I think most people investing in Bitcoin laugh this kind of stuff off, but it did seem to correspond with at least some level of peaking out. If you take a look at the chart again, that letter was signed on the 11th, which was within 2 days of the top of BTC. We had an intraday top on, it looks like the 14th here, so within about 3 days. So they kind of nailed almost the top with their letter. Again, I don't really think the letter meant anything, but it's just something worth paying attention to, that there's always that chance that you get a little bit more regulatory requirements. But frankly, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We've always looked at this ETP launch, the ETF launch, as being a positive catalyst for Bitcoin. And quite frankly, it has been. It's been one of the most successful ETF launches ever. You had $2.7 billion flow into digital assets in just the last week, 2 weeks ago was $2.7 billion. I wrote this down here. $2.7 billion flowing in 2 weeks ago. Last week was another record, $2.9 billion. The BlackRock ETF is already at $2.4 billion. Yes, you've got grayscale liquidations. I know that comes up, but we've actually been trading ahead of liquidations of grayscale because a lot of money that was tied up in grayscale, people at least believed would end up flowing into the exchange traded products because the fees are way lower, 0 to 20 basis points versus 150 basis points. But grayscale is finally outweighing, those liquidations are finally outweighing inflows. And so there is a sign that maybe some money was liquidated from grayscale, went into the ETFs, and now the money that's being liquidated from grayscale is going into cash. Maybe people are going risk off. I personally like to see one of the reasons crypto sells off as an early warning sign of a risk off trade. And so I think there's a potential that there's some standoffishness here due to the Jerome Powell meeting tomorrow, although that could extend. It's worth noting, look at when Bitcoin started falling in 2021. It actually started falling right around here, November, the first week of November 2021. That was about 3 weeks before, if I remember correctly, the queues were really starting to roll. And that's going off memory, so let's see if we can find that correctly. So let's go to 2021, and we'll go to the end of 2021 right here. Yeah, the peak was the 22nd of November, followed by essentially a double top a month later. So really, Bitcoin's sell-off came 3 to 7 weeks before the queues started rolling. So I do think as you go from extreme greed in markets, or a lot of greed at least in markets, to risk off, Bitcoin is one of your early warning signs. So you got a few things going here. You've got a short-term technical downspout. You've got a lack of catalyst, which hurt you on the way down if you could otherwise have good catalysts. We're past the really good catalyst of the ETFs. Yes, you get the halving, which is generally associated with prices going up. But then again, the price of Bitcoin over time has just, like over the long term, always gone up across halvings. So maybe that's like not really correlated. And then, of course, you have to remember that for any asset that really doesn't produce cash flows, for any kind of non-cash flow producing asset, you have to remember that it's traded on the belief that it's either going to be a stable store of value or there's going to be a store of value that eventually goes up. And both of those beliefs go away as the price is falling. So it becomes less desirable for people to sort of speculate on and leverage into. They get a little more risk averse. So again, maybe what we're seeing right now is just sort of a temporary little head and shoulders. Maybe we'll actually form out the shoulder. We haven't even done that, so we could trade sideways for a little bit. But there is a potential play at shorting some Bitcoin or crypto exposed topics, whether or securities, whether that's something like a Coinbase or otherwise, or you just keep buying the dip if that's what you're into. Now, something else that's worth noting is Ethereum went through its successful its last upgrade successfully. We're now at 122 transactions per second on layer 2, which is like a 31% increase from last week, which is crazy. It's also 8 times the base layer capacity at 15 transactions per second. And a ton of money is being injected into Solana meme coins. It's one of the reasons you've seen Solana just do so incredibly well. The thing's at $170. It's still up 13% on the 7-day, though it is off of its recent highs. If we look at the recent highs, we did run all the way up to 202 for a moment. But again, is this more systemic, a sign of risk off? Is sort of the ETF enthusiasm over, and is it now a downtrend into risk off? Maybe. And if it is, that's probably a bad sign for the NASDAQ and other equities as well. And just really the broader market going through a little bit of like a gut check, so to speak, to the valuations that we've seen. And then, of course, on the flip side, this could just be the usual kind of typical Bitcoin buy the dip opportunity, and you pick it up from there. The long-term investors in Bitcoin presently seem to believe that price targets for Bitcoin are easily in the neighborhood of $100,000 to $100,000 to $1 million. Of course, it's also not unsurprising sometimes to see people have positions in Bitcoin and then argue it's going to $1 million, knowing full well that they're going to sell before it gets there. So you kind of have to be careful what you're hearing. I don't have any trades going right now, so I just want to be transparent about my crypto exposure and equities. I don't even have any shorts in equities right now, and have a few longs. But that's it. So anyway, I wanted to give you that heads up and sort of what's going on, my thoughts. Hopefully that's helpful. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to check out the event at meetkevin.com. You can also check out the courses on building your wealth, where I do send my buy-sell alerts. Price will be going up on Friday for that. Thanks so much. Goodbye.
Advertise these things that you told us here. I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.
Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is not personalized advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show shall not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purposes of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services we may benefit from. I also personally operate an actively managed ETF. I may personally hold or otherwise hold long or short positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuer other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. Make sure if you're considering investing in HouseHack to always read the PPM at househack.com.